From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes. Brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Minnesota sports scene. And Wally, it's all about the NFL now. Despite the fact the Minnesota Twins are closing in on a playoff spot, the NFL is bigfooting everybody in its path.
Yeah.
That includes your purple.
Yeah, it usually does. Even though they landed with a thud on opening day, they are still the talk of the town. But it's, when you lose to a team, and Tampa's not a bad team. Don't get me wrong.
They're the reigning NFC South champs.
They're the reigning
8-9 a year ago, plus a playoff loss.
And they did win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago.
That's true, with a goat.
It's not that long ago.
No.
And, they didn't have Tom Brady, but they didn't need him. They had Baker Mayfield to take care of the Vikings on opening day. So, the Vikings have plenty to work on as they go forward. Certainly the offensive line needs help. They can't turn the football over like they did against Tampa. I mean, these are things that we knew coming in, particularly the offensive line. We thought, well, this offensive line, if they play well, Kirk Cousins can make things happen because he's got weapons, right? J.J. Jefferson, obviously. You've got T.J. Hawkinson, Alexander Madison. I mean, there's plenty of K.J. Osborne, Jordan Addison. I mean, there's all kinds of weapons for him. But if he doesn't have time, those weapons become that whole point becomes mute.
Yeah, good point. And funny how in that array of weapons you listed, you didn't mention a running back.
Well, I said Alexander Madison.
Okay. I'll give you that. But they only ran for 47 yards as a team against Tampa Bay.
I agree.
And now a lot of people are pinning that on the O-line. I don't care how good you are. If you don't have those road graders up front or purple people protectors in pass blocking mode, you're not going to be able to run or throw the way you want to. They're going to have to establish the running game. They're going to have to find a way to make sure that other teams, other defenses don't look at them as a one-dimensional offense and they just sit back and wait for you to throw the ball.
That doesn't matter who they play. It doesn't matter if it's Tampa Bay or Philadelphia or even the flippin' Chicago Bears, who looked dreadful on opening day against the Green Bay Packers. But all that being said, if you can't run the football, the devalued position in the NFL now, right? I mean, that's a position that they don't want to pay anybody anymore.
But it's still critical.
Of course it is. You have to be able to run the football. And if you watched football on opening day at all, you realize that as you're watching these games, you're saying, wait a minute. Teams that are able to run the football, control the clock, and control the ball are teams that are probably going to win those games.
Yeah, and usually teams who can run are physical. They're smash mouth. And I don't know if the Vikings are a very physical team. They might not be built to overpower an opponent. Now, it's early. Let's let some games be played before we land on, just how physical they are or are not. But I'm not so sure this is going to be one of those teams that's going to, punch you in the face and be smash mouth. And if it's finesse, even in this day and age of the cartoon-like numbers we see with the passing stats and all that the NFL desperately wants, and they've changed every rule in favor of the offense, you still have to have physicality in the NFL. I think they may have it on defense, though, with the new coordinator, Brian Flores. They mix up the coverages and the looks. They disguise things. They like to get after it.
Yeah, and that is quite different than what we experienced a year ago under Ed Donatell. I just think that it's a whole different philosophy as far as the defense goes.
Definitely.
And the players are different. You don't have Patrick Peterson. You don't have Eric Kendricks. I mean, you're missing some pieces from a year ago for sure. But by the same token, I think that those guys, Zadarius Smith, we talk about, Zadarius Smith didn't really add anything after the first few weeks last season. Well, we had him dropping into pass coverage along with Danielle Hunter. He only did that 2 times, by the way, Danielle Hunter did on opening day. He only dropped into pass coverage twice the entire day. The rest of the time he was doing what he was paid to do, rush the passer. He only got to Baker once. But the point is that's what your defensive, edge rushers need to do, not drop back in coverage.
You're right. The Vikings defense, though, is going to have to take the ball away. Minnesota lost the turnover battle to Tampa. 3-0. That's why the Buccaneers won. That's the chief reason they left with a W. So Minnesota's going to have to, get the picks, get the fumbles, and that stuff. And isn't it funny? I'll say this right now. In this era of the quarterback,
right, the
best player in the NFL might be a defensive guy, Micah Parsons in Dallas. My goodness, is he a force. He's a tsunami just washing over opposing offenses. What he did against the New York Giants in the rain was impressive. So to your point about you need to still run the ball and all that, you also still need to play defense.
So when the Chargers come to Minnesota, that's a week from Sunday.
Yep.
The Vikings will be nurturing a 2-game home losing streak, correct?
Yes.
Lost to the Giants,
yes,
the team that got thumped by the Cowboys on Monday night. And, of course, they lost to Tampa.
And if they enter that game 0-2, because they're going to be an underdog in Philly against the NFC champion Eagles at the Link Thursday night. We know that. Odds are not in their favor. So if they're 0-2, that same weekend, Shohei's here. LA Angels, Minnesota Twins. Are you going to find your way to trendy Target Field instead of the House of Noise?
Playing at the same time again? I don't like that.
Of course they are.
Of course they are. The parking's a nightmare on days like that. Yeah. Why do they do that?
Yeah, I had to get downtown by 10:45 a.m. to find my slot in Meteoropolis, Minnesota.
They don't care, man.
All right, stick around. We're going to hit the trails with a guy who set the ultramarathon running record on the Superior Trail, northeastern Minnesota. This is 10K Takes, your purple ticket.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back. Well, back in August, St. Paul gentleman by the name of Alan Chapman did something that I don't think you and I would ever think about doing. But he went 300 miles on foot through some rugged terrain down the Superior hiking trail. And he joins us now to talk about that venture. Alan, first, what possesses a person to do this? 5 days, 14 plus hours of basically being on your own in the wilderness hiking. What was the impetus for this?
Well, thanks for asking and thanks for having me on the program. It's great to chat with some folks about this adventure that I just experienced. So I would say that I've done I started out in like normal people, doing 5Ks, 10Ks, kind of graduating, kind of adding more distance beyond that, doing marathons, ultimately doing some trail marathons, realizing that trail is kind of where it's at for me. I enjoy moving as quickly as I can through kind of the woods or through nature. And the Superior hiking trail, I kind of got to know and love a few years ago when I started doing these events that are held through Rocksteady Running. It's a local race organization that puts on events ranging from around 10 miles or so all the way up to 100 miles. And so I kind of got into that by doing a 50K that they run in spring. I loved that section of trail. I kind of moved up in distance to their 100 miler that takes place every fall, and it ended up taking place a couple days ago up on the North Shore. I didn't run that because my body and mind are in no way ready for that sort of thing at the moment. But I did that a couple times, and I just kind of wanted to add to it and experience kind of a natural outgrowth of that sort of experience. So I wanted to add maybe a couple days to that sort of effort and spend a good long amount of time on the trail and experience everything that it had to offer.
Alan, paint the picture of trail running as opposed to, say, running on pavement where it's relatively smooth. You're not looking at tripping over rocks or exposed branches or something like that. On a trail, you really have to be aware of your surroundings, don't you?
That's absolutely true. I should say that I do my fair amount of falling on asphalt. So I'm just as clumsy, it seems, on trail than I am on the road. But road running, I tend to be looking at my watch a lot. I tend to be thinking about the pace that I'm going at. It's still very fun. I still enjoy it a lot. It can be really nice running down by the river on the St. Paul side or the Minneapolis side. Got a few nice loops kind of going over there. But then on trail, you're right. There are rocks to watch out for. There are roots to look out for. There's a lot more climbing and descending that ends up taking place. And so you're right. It's a whole different ball game. And ultimately, it's really nice to kind of mix and match, spend some time on the road, spend some time on the trail. Any surface kind of does the trick for me, but trail, at least lately, has been doing it especially well. Just kind of getting out in nature and being around, lots of rocks, lots of interesting weather conditions, and occasionally animals will join you. I ended up sending a video on over to you too that featured a porcupine that hopped onto the trail in front of me and ended up running in front of me for about 30 seconds or so.
Wow.
For a while, I couldn't tell if it was a hallucination. But I ended up reviewing my video, and it turned out like, okay, my video is not lying to me. This is real. There's a porcupine running in front of me. And that sort of thing just doesn't happen on the roads. It's that kind of interesting shenanigans that end up happening on the trail that you just don't get on the road.
Okay. Other than the porcupine, what were some of the biggest obstacles or most interesting things that you came across, or most difficult things? I guess that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mental roller coaster primarily. Your body kind of goes through a few stages. At least my body goes through a few stages, which is I'm feeling really good. That usually happens for the first third of any sort of endeavor. The middle third, you kind of settle into a groove and slowly deteriorate. And then the last third is just kind of a bit of a let's keep moving one foot in front of the other and like see if we can keep making progress. So that's the physical side. The mental side ends up being a much bigger struggle for me because you're kind of at the whims of whatever your blood sugar state is at. Your brain can get pretty depleted in terms of sugar. And that tends to track with your mood. So you try to keep eating, you try to keep the calories flowing in, especially kind of sugary meals that try and keep your muscles and your brain happy. And then at some point that just stops working and you're just kind of going up, you're feeling like amazing. And then all of a sudden you'll kind of come down and it'll just be this mental roller coaster. Sometimes explainable, sometimes entirely unexplainable, and you just can't pinpoint any sort of an event that made you feel so crummy. At one point on the trail, I was gathering some water at this amazing river, the Caribou River. It was like the freshest water that had been around. It tasted amazing, and I was soaking my feet in the water. My feet were taking a good pounding out there, so I was relaxing in the water a little bit. And as I packed up, I didn't realize that I had left my phone behind, and my phone was kind of my primary navigational tool, my ability to document where I had been by taking photos, and my ability to listen to things like podcasts and music to kind of get me through some tough times. So I realized about a mile down the trail that I had left my phone behind. I was pretty sure I had left it at the river, but I couldn't 100% be sure. So I ended up having to backtrack in a very kind of panicked state, thinking that if I don't find my phone, this is all over. And that was probably the biggest low that I faced on the entire time out there. Just the anxiety of not knowing whether or not I was going to be able to find my phone, and just thinking about what a dumb way to have to call this adventure quits. Ultimately, I was able to get reunited with the phone, and was able to turn around. I ended up tacking a couple unnecessary miles onto that day, but I didn't care. After I got the phone, I was pretty pleased.
I bet.
At that point.
Alan, were you able to soak up the scene? I know if you drive the North Shore, people rave about the spectacular views. I've done a small chunk of the Superior Trail hiking, not running like you, but just you're mesmerized by what you're seeing, Lake Superior, the forests, and all that incredible nature. Were you able to even take that in, or were you just focused on, okay, I've got to break this record?
Kind of a combo. I mean, I'm not moving super quick. I probably am running about 20 to 30% of the time, and then kind of doing a quick brisk walk for like the other amount of time. So I'm definitely still plugged into my surroundings. Like I said, when I am like feeling pretty psyched, I'm just kind of like in the moment, and I'm taking things in. I'm running with porcupines and that sort of thing. And then there'll be moments when I go entirely within my own head and kind of start questioning why I'm out there, thinking about quitting. Why am I doing this? Why am I taking time away from my family to do this like really silly thing? But when I was able to break out of those moments of kind of negative thinking, I was definitely taking in all the beauty around me. And it was great because all the colors were at the very beginning of starting to change. So
yeah,
it was a special time to be up there. Yeah.
Well, Alan, we appreciate you spending some time with us and kind of reliving your 5 days, 14 hours, and some odd minutes on that Superior hiking trail. And best wishes for your next adventure.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Alan.
He is ultramarathoner Alan Chapman with us here on 10,000 Takes. More after this timeout. Stay with us.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Welcome back, 10,000 Takes. And good thing I'm in charge of this segment. I know you'd want to bounce back and talk more NFL, bouncing off our trail talk. But
there you go, labeling me.
well, you are all
I love
football.
MLB.
Okay, all right. Well, let's talk some MLB. Your Twins are playoff bound. They're going to win this Central Division, the AL Comedy Central, as I refer to it as. What have you learned now over the last few weeks? Anything about this club going forward? I think that, in my mind, Pablo's got to start game one. If your guy Rockhead does anything else but start Pablo in game one of the postseason, I'm disappointed. He's got to be game one. Sonny's got to be game two. And if it comes down to a game three, I guess Joe Ryan would be my choice.
Yeah, and let's circle back to the off season. They gave up a batting champion, Luis Ariz, to get Pablo Lopez. So
do you feel better about that trade now? I think I do.
I'm gonna wait until the playoffs come, but there's a good chance Miami's not in the postseason and Minnesota is. So if you base it on that, you can't say Minnesota lost the deal. They play two different positions, as we know. Ariz second base, everyday guy. Lopez, a pitcher, but Lopez made the All-Star team, as did Luis Ariz. So it's pretty even, Steven. I think if Luis Ariz were still flirting with 400,
it'd be a different discussion.
Exactly, it certainly would. But I think the other thing is Byron Buxton. Are they going to get him back with a clean bill of health? If they do, and he's the Byron Buxton he's supposed to be, that's a great acquisition. Remember, Michael A. Taylor's dinged up. So they may put him back in center field. If you're a Twins fan, I would be concerned about rust and dust and, how does he get in a groove? So hopefully they'll start playing him here soon to get him ready to go for the postseason. But if you get a Byron Buxton, who was an all-star a year ago, that's a huge acquisition for your baseball team.
Yeah, but he struggled mightily at times.
No question. But I still think being a DH and that was it, didn't play to his strengths.
No.
Half of his game is his glove.
Well, his athleticism is not being used. Let's put it that
Exactly.
way. I mean, they're just rolling him out there to hit and hopefully round the bases with the home run, so he doesn't have to slide or do anything. He might hurt himself.
Well, I see the Twins, Johan Duran, their flame-throwing closer who throws that gas at well over 100 miles an hour. I guess the New York Mets were in love with the way the Twins bring him in out of the bullpen. You've seen it. You've been to games. They darken the stadium, and everybody lights up their phone, and they've got this, wild music. And the New York Mets showed it all on their broadcast. The Twins don't do that. So the Mets are impressed.
Well, maybe they could trade him to the Mets for, I don't know. Let's get Francisco Lindor.
Yeah, the polar bear, Pete Alonso.
Okay, that's the guy I really want. Yeah, I'll take Pete Alonso. That would be wonderful. Quickly, your Golden Gophers headed down to North Carolina against a ranked team. Any thoughts on that as they go down there? Because they were able to run the football in Game 2, something they really didn't do very well in Game 1.
Yeah, Darius Tyler was a monster. He was gashing Eastern Michigan. But North Carolina is a much different opponent, especially on the road against Eastern Michigan. I'll just say this. I'll make this declaration.
Okay.
I don't know how good the Gophers are. Nebraska's 0-2. Eastern Michigan is, I think, 1-1. They're two teams they've beaten. If they win over the Tar Heels in Chapel Hill, they will be ranked this coming week, both polls. They would deserve it. I don't know. It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and if they lose and keep losing, they'll be rank instead of ranked.
You are right.
Yes. All right. More to come. That would mean takes of the day up next. This is 10,000 Takes. Stay with us.
The excitement is real at Fond du Lac Casino. With over 650 slots to play, there's always something going on right in the heart of downtown Duluth. Come in to enjoy 2 floors of entertainment where you'll find some of the hottest new games along with a number of the old favorites. Play at your comfort level all the way up to high stakes where the payouts can be huge. Relax in a comfortable atmosphere and maybe get a beverage while you gather and have fun with your friends. Open 7 days a week so you can
have a great time out at Fond du Lac.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earrings. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
10K Takes on television as we wrap up yet another episode. We'll have takes of the day here in a couple of minutes. But we should salute the Minnesota Lynx. Remember, Wally, they started 0-6. We all thought they were tanking to get Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese or Paige Beckers. And they're in the playoffs. Second team in the history of the WNBA to start 0-6 and get to the postseason. Credit to Cheryl Reeve and Nafisa Collier and that whole group. They bounced back.
Yeah, they did, and they are headed to, and we'll play the Connecticut Sun in round 1. I believe that's a best of 3, so we'll see how they do. We'll see if they can keep the pedal to the metal, so to speak, because they did not play well in their season finale, and I know Cheryl Reeve was not happy with that because I think she wanted to use that as a launching point into the postseason, but that did not happen. Maybe they figured they had it clinched. Let's just get ready for the playoffs, and they had the wrong mindset for that game. Anyway.
So if you're in the playoffs, I believe they get the cushy charter flights now, don't they? I don't think they have to fly Delta economy like you and I do.
Yeah.
And pay to check a bag.
It's more like JetBlue economy.
Or Frontier.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
All right, well, good luck to the Lynx. You never know. They're the one team in this market that's been able to win a couple championships. How about 4 total?
Mm-hmm. So. All right. Should we get into takes?
Yeah,
of the
we'll
day?
find out what your mood is. Angry American, grumpy Guardian. Maybe you're a happy camper. What is it this week?
Well, you and I were both at U.S. Bank Stadium for the Vikings opener this past Sunday against Tampa, and we had our ears blown out. As a matter of fact, the guy sitting next to me in the press box, he had earplugs, and I'm going to take a cue from that, oh, by the way, because it is ridiculously loud in that building. There's a reason we call it the House of Noise, because you get your ears blown out every time you go in there for a Vikings event. Well, apparently our complaining and the problems we have with our hearing as we walk out of the building, your eardrums ringing, is not just here in the Twin Cities. No, it's also in Madtown. Yes, Madison, Wisconsin, where the University of Wisconsin had a football game a couple weeks ago, their opening day, and apparently their DJ or whoever it is that's spinning tunes during the game was not only playing the music way too loud, it was drowning out the band. What in the world are they thinking? So the fans got on them, and they wrote emails, they went on social media, they complained to the University of Wisconsin, and lo and behold, they fixed it last weekend. So take a cue from that. U.S. Bank Stadium, Target Field, Huntington Bank Stadium. Tone down the music. It's way too flipping loud. I don't need all of that to enjoy a football or a baseball game. I can't even hear the person talking who's sitting right next to me during the game. It is ridiculously loud in that building, particularly Huntington Bank Stadium. Cut it out!
Wow. Let's check out that mood meter. Yeah, Grumpy Guardian. He's in the red, just as I suspected. Fire danger high, as Smokey the Bear would say when you're in the woods.
Honestly, my ears were ringing.
Oh, you don't have to convince me. Try being on the phone and doing reports.
Oh, I did that for you last year a couple of times for CBS, and you can't do it. So I had to go to the back of the press box.
They crank it up artificially. It's going to be loud no matter what. They don't have to be obscene about it.
Well, I don't mind the fans, fans
they're
going
to get that.
Of course, we want the fans to be loud. But you don't need to have the DJ or whoever it is that's spinning the tunes recklessly driving up the volume. And oh, by the way, I didn't mind the actual music they were playing. It was just the volume that was problem. Yeah. They had a lot of 70s music. A lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Starkey, get this guy on your program. Maybe he can do your new spots. I mean, Sid used to do the Starkey
stuff. I know, yes. So, let's not go there yet.
All right, well, my take of the day, you brought up Wisconsin.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about Cheeseland's pro football team, the Green Bay Packers. Have they struck gold again?
Oh, boy.
Air Jordan goes into Chicago. Jordan Love and lights up the Bears. I know the Bears aren't very good. They're the monsters of the Midway on defense. But this guy threw 3 touchdown passes. He looked good. They groomed him for 3 years under Aaron Rodgers, who's now with the New York Jets. And small sample size. We got to let more water go under the bridge. But have the Green Bay Packers found yet another Hall of Fame quarterback? They had Brett Favre. Then they, pivoted to Aaron Rodgers, and now they're ready with Jordan Love. And let's not forget they had Bart Starr, who won Super Bowl I and II. Have they done it again? There's something about this organization where they know how to draft a quarterback and coach him up and put him in at just the right time, and also get rid of the predecessor at just the right time. We'll see. But, boy, Jordan Love, based on what we saw in Chicago, could be the real deal.
One game, and this guy's got him in the Hall of Fame already.
That's how the NFL goes. It's overreaction week after you play one game. All right, on that note, let's FedEx out those thank yous. One to Alex Yambrick, David Weld, Rocky, Alan Chapman. For Wally, I'm Eric saying so long. This is 10K Takes, your sports ticket.